I'm Scott Dickerson. You're joining me here on the rugged wilderness coast of Alaska, and I'm going to tell you my top 5 things that I've done to reclaim a simple life. Number 1, and I'd say the most important, the most significant thing I've done to live a simple life is live a life that is in some significant way dictated by nature. So for me, here in Alaska, on the wilderness coast, there's a lot of really significant natural forces that influence what I can, could, or should do on any given day or season. And having my life guided by these forces that are so completely beyond my control, it simplifies what I choose to do. When it's high tide, you don't go clamming. When it's low tide, you don't haul water. When it's winter, you can't hunt black bears or fish for salmon. But there's a time in the summer when the salmon are in and the bears are out. That's the time to harvest. In the winter, maybe it's time to pull the meat out of the freezer and make jerky. There's a lot of forces at play here that influence what's appropriate and reasonable to do on any given day. So one of the things I do to keep things really simple is when I'm filming myself, I just turn the camera off and keep talking so that I don't even have to edit the footage. Makes it really easy. Seriously though, on my first ever walk and talk, I made a total beginner mistake, and I was recording when I was standing around enjoying the view, and then I turned the camera off when I was walking and talking. So I got to come back and recap number 2 and number 3 of the 5 things I've done to simplify my life. Number 2 is, I think I did intermittent fasting, which can mean a lot of different things to different people. But for me, it basically comes down to I don't eat breakfast and I don't eat lunch, and I eat a big dinner. And it's made of wild game meat that I've hunted or harvested and a bunch of fat. And it's a long story. I'll do a video about this someday, but it's incredibly freeing because when I get up in the morning, I drink a liter of warm water, and I don't have to cook breakfast. I don't have to clean up after breakfast. I don't even have to have breakfast food in the house. And for lunch, I don't cook lunch. I don't clean after lunch. I don't have to stock lunch food. And if I'm going on a hike or out on adventure hunting, paddleboarding, out on the boat for the day, I didn't have to think about it. I just leave the house, throw a big chunk of meat in the crock pot with some fat, and dinner's done, my one meal of the day. Come back and chow down on that, and I'm good. This one thing, which I know is a major thing, but skipping those meals has been an incredibly freeing and simplifying thing in my life. It's supposedly got a bunch of health benefits. Honestly, I was feeling good before I started doing it, and I still feel great. I've been doing it for about, I think 2 years now, actually over 2 years, probably in my 3rd year now. And I'm not super strict about it. If I feel like it, I'll eat in the middle of the day. I don't really feel like it. Sometimes I do because the food looks good or other people are eating around me. And there's a lot of things I could talk about this, but this is not the time. So that's my number 2 is intermittent fasting, skipping breakfast and lunch. Simplified my life. Number 3 was, what did I do for number 3? Priorities. Setting your priorities in life, and not just setting your priorities, but actually living as if your priorities are your priorities. So let's say for priority, I wanted to become a photographer, and I did. I actually had a 20-year photography career, and that was a priority in my life, and I focused on that to the exclusion of a lot of other things. This isn't always easy for me. I'm pretty easily distracted or excited by things, and if you got a business idea or a project and you tell me about it, I'm likely to want to get involved and help out. It's just my personality. But as far as priorities go, what I've been working on and improving as I age is figuring out what my priority is in life. Try and keep it to a small list, just a couple things that are really the most important things for you. And for me, one of those is being time in nature and my spiritual growth, which is good content for a whole nother video or video series. But set your priorities, figure out what they are, and act as if they are your priorities. Quit distracting yourself, quit doing other things. I have had a lot of small business ideas and endeavors over the years, and it's been a process for me to narrow down, eliminate, and try and keep the focus more exclusively on what is really important to me. Living out here in the wilderness is a great way to keep focused on my priorities, and one of those is being in the wilderness, being in nature more. So that is a natural outcome of moving yourself into the wilderness. You're kind of by default spending a lot more time in nature, which has been great. So there's number 2. There's number 3. Now we can resume to my walk and talk, now that I've had my dinner and realized that I had failed to record about half of my whole little video shoot, my first ever walk and talk. So thanks for your patience with me as I learned this. I'm not sure what happened. The camera turned itself off. Must not have liked what I was saying. I was rambling on about how when you go to prioritize your life, you probably will find there's a lot of things that you need to let go of or should let go of. And that's not always easy. Sometimes when you open yourself up to it, life will go ahead and help you out by ripping some things out of your hands that you don't want to let go of. I've experienced it that way. And then other things in life I've just grown out of after I finally looked at them honestly and asked myself if this deserves my attention and energy. If the answer is no, it's easy to let them go. So that's number 3. Look at your priorities, look what you're doing with your time, and eliminate as many of the things that don't belong on that list. And I would encourage you to try and put most of your attention on the top item, whatever that might be. Number 4, I've done my best to eliminate distractions. One of the biggest things I did is I moved into the wilderness where the distractions here are, for me, soothing and peaceful. It's animals, it's changes in weather, it's changes in the tide. These I consider wonderful distractions. But living in town, I was often distracted by things that I didn't want my attention to go towards. So the reason for this elimination of distractions is it's honestly hard to do anything when you're distracted. When your energy is going out in multiple directions towards things that you either are not really considering whether you want them in your life or not, or you know you don't want them in your life. Just an example that I often think of is like the neighbor's dog barking. The neighbor's dog barks and your attention goes to it for a moment. It pulls you out of whatever you were doing and often inspires thoughts about things that are unrelated to your task at hand or whatever you were in the middle of. And that's a distraction that comes at you, but a lot of times we find ourselves distracting ourselves with things. Maybe you like to watch the news or pay attention to politics, or you're interested in sports or something. And I don't have anything wrong with any of those things, but going back to my prioritizing your life, are those things your top priority, or are they dissipating your energy and sort of keeping you spread out? And to me, that's sort of the opposite of a simple life, is a life where your energies are distributed across more things than you can coherently focus on. So eliminate distractions as much as you're able to. And that'll look different for everybody. What's left after you eliminate the distractions? I don't know. For me, it's a lot of time in nature, and being in nature is my favorite way to eliminate distractions. No cell phone service, no cars, no dogs, no airplanes overhead, just beautiful sounds of nature and all the peaceful energy that I find there. Number 5, although I've actually been too distracted and I'm not sure if I'm at 5 or maybe this is number 6, but I have one more thing, and that is find yourself some type of work or a project or a hobby or something that uses your hands and is like an old world craft. For me, it's timber framing. I'm standing in front of a timber frame sauna that I'm building right here on the beach, and working with wood for me is like therapy. It's very, I would say, it's simple. It's slow moving. That's one part of it, is using hand tools, using chisels and planes, hand planes, and building mortise and tenon joinery. Let's see if I get this thing to look up here. Here's the knee brace for the timber frame top plate support. The view from this sauna, really amazing. So anyhow, doing a task, a project, a hobby, a job, a craft that is slow moving, involves hand tools, involves natural materials. Like I said, woodworking is just a great fit, but it could be anything. Maybe like quilting, weaving, knitting, making jewelry out of found objects. I would say anything that is sort of a therapeutic feeling, moves slowly, requires patience, and gives you the sort of meditative time. It's helpful for removing other distractions. It helps calm and ease your nervous system. And the more you do something, the more natural it feels. So if you, like me, would like to live a simple life, do some simple things. Sometimes the answer to our questions or desires is just a little bit too obvious and plain, and we want something more complicated. But for me, doing woodwork, timber framing, sawmilling, these activities they're pretty slow moving. They feel therapeutic. They fit perfectly in with a simple lifestyle. And they're also skills that are comforting to have. The ability to build a sauna with rocks from the beach and timbers from the forest is very satisfying. It's peaceful, and I can't wait to use it. And the process of building it has been amazing. It's been wonderful, and it's a perfect fit into a simple life here on the rugged, wild coast of Alaska. So I'll leave you there. There's 5 things that I've done in my life to make it simpler, and it's going very well. It's wonderful. I would encourage you to adapt and adopt any of these things I was talking about, and I would love to hear what you're doing. Post in the comments the ways that you have simplified your life, and can't wait to hear your thoughts. So congratulations. I guess at this point you've made it so long through this video that you got to the after dark bonus section. So you must have a pretty simple life, I guess. If you're interested in simplifying your life, I think you're off to a good start, because apparently you have time to watch me wander around and talk about how my life is simple. Anyhow, so I had a few thoughts. I was down here working, mulling things over, thinking about the good simple life. And so this bonus section is going to start off with a hot tip. If you want to simplify your life, look around and see if you know anybody who has a simple life. Seems like a good idea. I happen to know somebody with a very simple life. I call him the Zen master of the art of no, and that's my dad, actually. He has a special technique he uses where he says no to everything right away. And that makes his life a lot simpler because he doesn't get involved in things very often because he just says no to them. And I can see how it really works super well for him. So there's your first tip. Look at someone in your life who has a simple life and see how they're doing it. I did this with my dad. I realized that he always kind of immediately, instinctively says no to things. If you say, hey, you want to go on this trip or you want to do this project with me or whatever, he usually just says no right away, off the cuff. No thanks. He says it politely, and sometimes he'll think about it and change his mind, but he usually starts off with a no, and the effect is that his life is pretty simple. He has a lot of time that's what you might call downtime or whatever. He worked hard for his basically whole career, and now he's relaxing, and he does that through not getting overcommitted, and it's working for him. So that's the tip. Find someone who has a simple life and see if you can learn a trick that they're applying that enables them to live in a way that you might aspire to yourself. I know that I'm still struggling with this one for sure. I am enthusiastic and energetic and love to take on new projects and start things, and frequently find myself looking back at my recent past and thinking, oh wow, could have used a little bit more of that Zen master of the art of no activity in my life. Bonus section number 2. I started this by telling you 5 things I've done in my life to simplify it. Well, here's one that I still struggle with, and that is eliminating extra belongings or stuff. A couple years ago, I had to move out of my shop, and I have a lot of stuff, a lot of tools, a lot of boards, interesting pieces of wood I've saved, tools that need worked on, fixed, screws, bolts, nuts, welding equipment, woodworking equipment, timber framing equipment, mechanic tools, just a lot of things. And mixed in with all that are things like, a set of trailer tail lights, 5 to 8 battery chargers, just kind of stuff that you collect over the years because maybe at one point in your life you didn't have enough, and you look around one day and realize you have too much. So it's the burden of the stuff. I struggle with that. I think that simplifying my life could really be aided by eliminating the amount of stuff that I live with the burden of ownership of. However, it's in conflict with my sort of self-reliance, homesteader ethic. Living out here in the wilderness, having a jar full of random screws is really convenient. It takes me at least a couple hours to get to the store to buy a screw. If I can save a jar full of random screws, it can be really convenient. Or an hydraulic hose brakes on equipment. If I've got some stuff around, then I can cobble it together. So this sort of homesteader, be ready for the incident, save stuff, never throw anything away. It's a homesteader thing, and I both appreciate that and also struggle with it because it certainly makes life more complicated when you're trying to manage a lot of stuff. And my thing might be tools and homesteady type of things. Maybe yours is kitchen gadgets or whatever, I don't know. But that's something I'm working on. What are you working on? I told you my struggle. I'd be curious to hear what your struggle around simplifying your life is. All right, those are the late night thoughts. Talk to you later.